Hello everyone, you're welcome to the sewing part of our last tutorial. This is what we'll be learning how to make today. I'm just trying to show you how it is. This is what we call an inbuilt corset, and that is the keyhole neckline. The back is going to be like this. When you open the zip for the back, you're going to have something like this, and it is all looking neat and beautiful. Watch to the end if this is what you want to learn how to make. This is the pattern. I've gone ahead to cut them on the lining and the actual fabric. I'm using a velvet material for the upper part, while the down part is going to be a lace. Then I added all the allowance, half inch allowance all around it, except the side seam where the pattern already have 2 inches allowance. Now if you've not watched the drafting part, I'm going to drop the link in the comment section or the description box for you guys to go ahead and watch, and those that have already watched it, let's continue. Now I'm going to start sewing. So for the cup side, I take one piece of the cup and the other cup, then you're going to join them together and you're going to sew with half inch. You do that for the second cup. Then the lining also, take one cup and one of the other side cup, and you're going to sew with half inch. So that is that for the cup. Now for the center front, I'm going to take the actual fabric and I would open it because it is cut on fold. So when you open it, you have something like this. Then you take the side front and we're going to be placing it on each other. So you place it like that and you sew with half inch. You're going to take the other one, you place it, and I'm going to be sewing with half an inch. I'll repeat the same process for the lining. Now so that is that for the lining. Now for the back piece, guys, you're also going to take the back piece, you open it up, then the other piece of the back, you can see my arrows, and I'm going to place one of the back piece on the other back piece, and you can go ahead and notch your fabric so you know where and where you are placing, like I did mine. You can see the arrow signifies that is the upper part, then the other 2 arrows signify that is where I'll be joining it to the side back. So guys, I'll do the same thing for the lining as well. Now this is the lining. I'm just showing you guys everything so you know how to sew it. So you take one piece, you're going to join it, and I pin it together so that when I'm sewing it doesn't fall off. I take the other one and I also pin it together. Then I'm going to sew everything. Then when I sew, I'll come back and show you guys. So guys, this is it after sewing our center front, the back, the cup, and everything. This is how it is looking like. Now for the cup, guys, I'm going to take the actual cup. Now you can use a already made cup in the market, you can use it, or you can form your own cup yourself. So what I use here is this hip pad. You also use it for breast cup. Then I sew it with my zigzag stitch, and this is what we have. So take your already made cup, if that is what you have, you place it inside, and I went ahead to use gum. You can use either of the gum, but I use the gum to gum it. I plug it, then I take the cup and I align it properly to the actual fabric. So this is it after gumming. You can see I have my half inch allowance all around it because the cup does not have half inch when I was sewing it with my zigzag machine. It is just the pattern I cut like that with the cup. Now this is the cup. You take it, the part that is facing the center front, you already know, and the part that is fitting the side front. So you make sure the side seam matches each other, and I went ahead to pin them down before sewing. If you know you can sew without pinning, it is fine, but it is easier when you pin before you sew. Then the lining, did the same thing for the lining. Now I'm going to sew. After sewing soulmates, this is what we have. You can see it is looking very neat and beautiful. Now the lining piece as well, I've sewed the lining as well. Then for the boning part, I'll be fixing a regaining boning. Now this is a regaining boning. I got the pack. It is easier for me to get bundle, so because I do a lot of work with boning. Now I'm going to be putting the boning on the lining. I don't want any boning to show on the actual fabric. So for the boning channel, the first part is the center front, then apart from the center side, then the other side. So this is me just measuring what I have, for the boning channel. So just follow this process and you do yours. Now it depends on how many star lines you want to create. You can create plenty boning and you put. So that is that for the front. Now for the boning, when I'm cutting the boning, I'll make sure I have 0.75 on the down parts and the upper part 0.75, because the boning will not get there if I sew it on it. I want to have a lot of space. I don't want to do ½ inch. So I'm going to be cutting the length now. Yeah, so I'll cut, and I also cut for that part. I'll cut 2 because that is for 2, and I also cut 2 also because that is for the 2 sides. So that is that for the front boning. Now for the back boning, and guys, always make sure when you cut your boning, iron them before you sew on it. It is very easier and smooth that way, to make it very smooth. Now for the back, I'm creating just 2 star lines for this back. That is for the side darts, for the darts, and another one close to it, because this back is going to have a back casing. So the same thing I did for the front, 0.75 up and 0.75 down, and I'm going to cut the boning length that I want now. So I'll cut 2 of each, and I'm also going to cut that one also. Now we have this, and I'm going to iron the boning and I will sew. Then I'll come back and show you guys. After sewing it, this is what it is, guys. You can see, like I said, always iron your boning before you sew. Now this is it, and that is for the front. So guys, we are going to be joining the yoke. Now this is the yoke parts. You can see when you take your pattern, for those that already watched the drafting parts, that part where you see me touching is where the yoke will stop, like when I sew the middle. So I take the actual yoke and the lining, because I cut both lining and for this piece. So I'm going to be sewing the neckline. I'll sew the neckline, then I'll sew. After sewing the neckline, I'm going to sew from that part where we notch, where the yoke keyhole is going to stop. You'll sew to the other parts, then I'm going to pull it out from the side. So for the back yoke, I went ahead to take the lining and I'll place it on each other. The back yoke, I place the lining on it and I sew with ½ inch just on that part alone. Then this is the front yoke. After sewing it, like I told you, I turn it out from that point, and I'm going to take the front piece and we'll be joining the yoke. Now you're going to place it close to the darts, and I went ahead to sew it to where the yoke will stop. You are going to know where the yoke will stop because you'd see it on your pattern. Now for the back yoke, after turning it with the lining. I ironed it, I top stitch it, and I ironed it. Now this is the pattern. I want to know where I'm going to place it. Now remember, the material have ½ inch sewing allowance and our pattern does not have here. So this is me just trying to get where I'm placing the back yoke. It's practically on the back dart. That's where you place the yoke on. So I place the back yoke on it, and I'm going to sew with 0.25. After sewing, I will now take the lining and I'm going to place the lining, and I will be sewing with ½ inch. I'll do the same thing for the second back. So after sewing, I'll sew the side alone. Yeah, I'll sew that side alone, then I'll turn it. So for the front piece, this is how it is after sewing the yoke. You can see the yoke is sitting perfectly on it. It is balanced. Now I'm going to place the lining on it, and I'm going to be sewing with ½ inch. Now if I'm going to sew, I will sew and stop where the yoke stop at, then I'll sew the side with ½ inch, then I'm going to turn it. So guys, before sewing the side, I just want to show you that where the yoke stop at is where your lining will stop at, because we are attaching a sleeve to this dress. If it were to be a yoke, you're just going to sew it all the way down. I hope you understand. Now I'm going to turn it and now sew the side with ½ inch. So this is me just still trying to tell you you're going to sew these sides. Now after sewing the side, this is how it is. And let's work on the back. Like I said, after turning the lining with ½ inch, and I turned the side also, but for the other side where the lacing is going to be, I did not turn it. I just used a stitch to just run it down, because we'll be putting a back casing. Now this is the casing I'm putting. I'm using this black material because I used this black satin for the lace. Now this is 5 inches. You're going to cut 5 inches, then any length you want. As far as the length is longer than your back pattern, then you fold it ½ inch on both sides. After folding, you have 2 inches left. So that is that about it. Now this is how I'm going to be sewing it to the back. So the lacing part, I'm going to open it and place it on the middle. You know, when you fold it into two and you iron, you already have that middle line on this black casing. So you place it on the middle like that. Yeah. So when we finish sewing, it's going to give you something like this. But before that, let me open it back, because we'll be putting regaining boning on it. Now, like what I did for other ones, 0.75 before the end, you're going to place, and I'm going to cut 2 of each. That will be 4. So we are putting 4 boning on this pattern. So this is how you're going to place it. Like I said, always iron your boning before you sew. So you're going to place it that way, one on that part and one on the other part. Now it will not exit the other folded parts. So you're going to sew just the way you see my hand touching, and you're sewing like that. So let's go and sew, then you come back and see it. Now if you see it after sewing, this is how it is on the back side. This is how it is on the second one. And so we are going to fold it into 2 now. You take it right side to right side, you fold it, and you're going to sew that part very close to the upper part where my hand is touching. You're going to sew very close to it. Then I'm going to cut off the excess. You take the second one, you fold it that way, and you're going to sew very close. Then I'll cut off the excess. So let me show you guys. After sewing, then I cut the excess. Now I'm going to turn it. You're going to have to turn it. After turning it, You can use your scissors to bring out any folded parts on that angle. So when you turn, you're not going to sew. You fold it very well. Yes, let it cover your boning, then you sew on the edge there. After that, this is how the two is. I've opened, torn, and this is me cutting off the excess on the down part. That's why I said you have to cut enough length that will be longer than your back. Now guys, we are going to sew on that again because I want to put a plastic boning inside just to make that part very strong. So you're going to run a stitch on the eyelet there. When you touch it, you are just going to run a stitch down just to secure the former boning down. Yeah, so you just run a stitch on it. After running a stitch on it, this is how it is. Now this is the plastic boning I'm using. I think it is not up to 1/2 inch plastic boning. After cutting, I filed the mouth with a nail file. You can bond the mouth, then I iron it. You can also iron your plastic bone so that it will be straight. Then I'm putting it into the sewing. It will just give you easy access when you do this. There will not like you're choking it inside the region bone inside. No, because you sew it, so it serves as a casing also for you. Then you're going to, that way I think it's sitting on top of the region boning. Then you push it inside very well. Now you have to make the casing shorter, like 0.75 shorter, just like we did for the sewable boning. Now this is the last one. I've gone ahead to fix it, to push it inside, so that part becomes very strong. So when they drag the back, it's not going to tear. So guys, I'm going to run a stitch just to secure both lining and actual fabric together. Then after running a stitch on it, I'm going to place back to the front, and I'm going to sew the side seam. Now remember, the drafting part we added to 2 inches sewing allowance. So because I turn with 1/2 inch, I have 1.5 inches left. Now this is the bias I'll be using to turn, to pipe the down part. You all know how to use a bias to turn a fabric, so I'm going to be using the bias to do that, so that down part will be very neat and fine. Then for the upper part, for the shoulder, you're going to place the back on the front, and I'm just going to be opening it that way, and I'm going to be sewing it with 1/2 inch. I'm going to be sewing it with 1/2 inch. So mates, this is it after sewing the side. Then I've not used the bias to turn the down parts, so I went ahead, I took the pattern again, and I'm just marking the side seam. The length is 3 inches. Remember, when we're cutting, it was 3 inches. So this is me marking the 3 inches. I'm going to rule a straight line to connect the 3 inches together. That will serve as the waist length. So I had to rule it properly. Come and eat, guys. I'm eating. I know you might have heard the movement of my mouth. So guys, for the back parts, for the down parts rather, is the lace. You all know how to cut a skirt. Most times this tutorial are becoming too long that you cannot just afford to do everything in one video. So after cutting the skirt, I turned into the lining, I sewed the zip side, and I also added my sewing allowance to the sides. Then I join it together. After joining the side, then I open the zip allowance all the way down, because I iron it actually before I open the zip allowance so I can have my zip line. Then this is how you're going to place it on that line we drew for our waist. So for the side seam, let the side seam match each other. If you use the same allowance. There's no how you to not match each other. So I'm going to mark that point. To see me marking before the, the eyelets, before the plastic boning. I'm just going to be matching it. Yeah, so when I'm sewing this, that is where it will get to. I'm just using chalk to show you guys that is where it will get to. So I'm going to sew it now. I'll sew from one end to the other end. This is what we call an inbuilt, corset. It is different from sewing a skirt separate, a blouse separate, then you wear the skirt on it. I've done something like that too on my channel. You can check it out. So after sewing, guys, this is how it is. You can see everything is neat and beautiful. So for this part, yeah, the remaining, when you sew with ½ inch, you have ½ inch left up to the zip side. Now I'm going to be using my Emmy gum to gum it. That is how we are going to finish up that part. So you place your Emmy gum inside like that, and you are going to press it, so it will give you a smooth finishing. You can weave your skirts, weave the top, weave the edge all the way down before you do this, or you can decide to do this if you don't want to weave. So you place it like that. Also fold the ½ inch in on it, then you iron it. After doing that, you see it, look at how it is, because it's an inbuilt corset, your sewing cannot climb your casing, that part, because we'll be fixing eyelets on it. So after that, guys, you're going to fold it that way, then put back your zip allowance. My zip allowance is 0.75. It is 1 inch, but I use 0.25 to turn the zip side. Yeah, so I have 0.75 left. So this is me marking the 0.75 all the way to where I want the length of the zip to get to. I did 10 inches. Yeah, I did 10 inches. Now, because I already sew before and I iron and I lose it back, I already have my zip line, like the crease line. So I'm going to be sewing the zip. Now for the slit, for the back slit, I did I measured, I think 22 inches. Yeah, 22 inches. I marked 20 inches, but I think I ended up doing 22 inches. Yeah. So I'm going to sew the remaining parts from that zip part then to this part. Can you see it? So let's go and sew, guys. After sewing the zip, are you seeing it? Can you see how it is? It is looking neat and beautiful. Now I just want to show you the eyelet I'm using, like how you're going to fix your eyelets. If you don't have the machine, go to the market and do that. But if you have the machine, I have the machine, so I normally do it myself. So when you fix your eyelet, that is why I said your sewing cannot climb that part. Yes, so you zip your skirts back, and that is how it's going to be. So guys, we are almost done with this tutorial. Kindly give me a like if you've gotten to this part. This corset, you can see, if you notice, different outfits that I was wearing for this. Not like I don't want to do it in 2 days, but because I had other things doing, I was just, so guys, that is the slits at the down part. I've ironed it with Emmy gum. You iron your slits down with Emmy gum so you can hold it down. And we are almost done. The next thing is to fix the sleeve. Yeah, so the sleeve is just a normal basic sleeve. I think the length where the client wants is the 3/4 sleeve length, and this is the sleeve. You all know how to cut a basic sleeve. Yeah, so that is what I'm going to, after sewing it, I'm going to fix it on the dress. So after fixing this zip on the dress, it is looking all neat and beautiful. Thank you guys. Bye.